What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel here. Today we're going to be taking a look into key resistance levels that is in Bitcoin's way, and you cannot ignore it because we could still have pullbacks along the way going back up to about 110k before seeing a possible huge breakout. So these are going to be some key resistances along the way you want to pay attention to. We are actually hitting one right now, and I will show you proof why. Now, if you guys have not been to the channel before, make sure you guys like and subscribe because here we dive deep into the charts and find moves before they happen. We have found this move. I have talked about this move for the past couple of weeks, and it finally happens. But it was a big move, and it was a huge pattern. So make sure you guys like and subscribe because let's face it, you rather find the moves before they happen rather than chasing pumping green candles. Okay, it's a lot less riskier. Let me know how it went when you guys actually chased pumping green candles. I can tell you from my personal experience, it was stressful. You're just looking for that every incremental percentage point to actually make a profit, but it could go down pretty damn hard, right? So a lot easier and less riskier to find the moves before they happen. Now, if you guys have any TA requests, make sure to drop a comment below. I will choose one TA request to do on my video every day for you guys. And yesterday, I had a TA request coming from one of my subscribers, which is for Stellar Lumens, which is XLM USD. We're going to be taking a look into that. But first of all, we're going to be taking a look into a more macro chart, which is Bitcoin, the stock market, because we want to get an overview first before zooming in. So make sure to stay around until we get to XLM. Now let's come over here to the Bitcoin chart here. We had a massive move yesterday. We talked about this move. We talked about this breakout here for the past couple of weeks here, right? Because we did have a double bottom pattern that is more apparent on the 3-day time frame. We talked about this, right? We had double bottom, which is usually a bullish pattern. We finally broke out of it very, very suddenly. Okay, the neckline, like I said, was 89,000. Quite a bit of resistance that Bitcoin is hitting right now because we're hitting some moving averages on the 3-day time frame. On the weekly time frame, we just crossed over the daily 200 SMA, which is huge because that is basically the divide between a bull market and a bear market. And yesterday, in my yesterday's video, I said if we actually get a solid candle close above the daily 200 SMA, we will be looking fantastic. Okay, and we're gonna zoom into the daily time frame real quick. But right now, like I said, let me just reiterate this. Double bottom pattern, usually a bullish pattern. We finally broke out of it. Price target here is going to be 104,000. Now, some things to be keeping an eye out on throughout your trading journey is one thing I really like to look for are bullish divergences or bearish divergences on the RSI, right? We had double bottom, which is equal or lower bottom. However, we had an equal or higher bottom on the RSI. That usually means a reversal, and we got that reversal. So a very effective and simple indicator that I love to use, right? Over the past 5 years of trading, it has been just a very effective indicator that you guys should definitely look into. Okay, now let's go ahead and go to the daily time frame. Like I said, all right, daily time frame here, we have gone a very solid candle close above the daily 200 SMA, which is the orange line here. I think yesterday when we were talking, we were still at about like 92, but we are hitting some resistance right here. Let me show you why, because I still think that, I mean, this very much looks like it's going to build probably a cup and handle pattern here, right? It's not fully developed, but we have, we're probably developing higher highs and higher lows, and then going to hit resistance at about 110, okay? Now, this, you gotta read candles as well for support and resistance, and we're hitting that 95,000 resistance. As you guys can see here, last time we hit 95,000. We can see quite a bit of wicks here, right? That was support, right? A bunch of daily candles here. That was support, and now is resistance. So these candles you read as resistance and supports for profit taking, for closing positions, opening positions. Very effective as well, right? Now, 95,000, very important resistance. Last time we hit there, we had a huge, massive red candle here, right? But right now, I think we have quite a bit of short-term resistance, moving averages beneath the price action right now. So, I think it's still looking very good, right? For Bitcoin, for the altcoins, and we have the stock market pumping. We're gonna get to that right now, which is very good correlation with Bitcoin most of the time. Now let's come over here to the 12-hour time frame, where we did cross over the. I still think that's a solid candle close above the hourly 12-hour 200 SMA, the orange line at about 91,000. Now let's come over here to the shorter time frame, hourly time frame, right? Quite a bit of divergence on the hourly time frame, so that did prompt a a pullback, like I've been saying, right? Very effective and simple indicator, the RSI. Now we had a bear flag, right? Price target out of that bear flag, it's going to be pretty small because it's a small pattern. Breakdown point right here. So we basically, we're basically at the target. The target's about 91.7. It went down to about 91.9 today. So, I mean, in my opinion, that's basically hit. Now, price targets are only estimates. It could be more or less, right? Due to FOMO, panic, right? But it's still very important to get a good idea of where you are, right? I take profits according to price targets and supports and resistances, but that is just me, right? You guys go and develop your own strategy. Now let's go ahead and come to Ethereum, right? Just gotta cover Ethereum real quick because I've been talking about this. It's been a brutal market for Ethereum. I'm still holding some Ethereum on leverage, and it's not pretty, man. But we did have this breakout of this downtrend here that has been forming since end of January this year. Finally got on top of the daily 21 SMA, which is the blue line here, 1600. Price target out of this pattern is going to be about 2,900. That's basically, around the range of where the daily 200 SMA is, the orange line. So it's something to be keeping an eye out on because this could be huge, right? I mean, out of that pattern there, it was about 1,600. We're still about 1,800, right? So, still pretty, still got some way to go according to this price target. And that's just textbook, technical analysis, okay? Total 3, which is altcoin market cap, excluding Ethereum, has also broken out of this downtrend as well. Very similar charts. Price target is going to be about over 1 trillion, right? And as you guys can see, I think Total 3 is actually going to run ahead of Ethereum because of how close the moving averages are. Of course, relative to the price action. Of course, Ethereum could get a huge pump, but, I like to speak in terms of probabilities. What are the chances of that versus, what you're seeing here? Total 3 is, it's already above the daily 50 SMA. It's very close to the daily 200 SMA. I'm sure if you guys have Coinbase accounts, you guys have probably seen a bunch of Coinbase smaller altcoins just popping off like 100%, 200%. It's been crazy for the last couple of days, right? Now let's go back to stock markets. Very important to be paying attention to as well because I think this was yesterday, right? I talked about it still looks good for the stock market, even though like 2 days ago we had this dump, right? Very important indicator for crypto as well, because most of the time it serves as a front running signal for Bitcoin. It is highly correlated with Bitcoin. So I would not be missing out on any signals from here. This is the S&P 500 mini futures, ES1 exclamation mark. It opens on Sunday afternoon Pacific Standard Time. So it's something I've been, I pay attention to, because if it looks like there's going to be a dump here, I would be very cautious about the crypto markets when opening or closing positions, right? So this is what I'm seeing. Like I said, falling wedge pattern. It looks like it's trying to break out of that pattern. It's going to look a lot better when it breaks out, right? Price target out of this falling wedge pattern, you basically take a measurement of the opening of the pattern, and then you put it on top of a possible breakout point. If it actually breaks out today, that would give us about 5,800, which basically retests the daily 200 SMA, which looks very similar to a lot of the other charts that we've been seeing in crypto. Is price action retesting that 200 daily SMA, right? As long as we still get daily candle closes above 5,100, I think it's still good, because that was, if you guys remember, last couple of weeks, since that dump back down to about 4,800, this has been a very strong support and resistance range for 5,100. So as long as we hold above 5,100, I would still say we're looking good for the stock market and of course for crypto. Now let's come over here to XLM. For one of my subscribers, if you guys do want to leave a TA request, make sure to drop a comment, like, subscribe now. I will choose one of your TA requests and do it for tomorrow. So make sure to do that. Let's come over here to XLM and see what we are having here. I might not have charted XLM for a little while, so let's go ahead and do this from scratch, okay? All right, so this is, this coin has been around for a little while. I used to trade it. I haven't traded recently. I think the last time I probably traded was back in where I charted it, maybe September 2023. But what we have here is, so I usually like to zoom out first. So I come to the monthly time frame and see what we're having. So it looks like we have been overbought, right? Back in November, since we had that pump, right? The US elections here. And basically, it's coming back down to the weekly 50 SMA right now. That could be a support at about 19.5 cents, right? That would be support. That would be the next support level that I'm looking at, a major support level, at least in terms of this monthly time frame. So whenever I see, I like looking for altcoins on the monthly time frame, okay? Because if you guys can see that, if it actually does go into overbought territory, it drops back down pretty quickly, at least within the month, right? At least with XLM. There are some exceptions, but most altcoins I've seen, it usually goes overbought in the monthly time frame, and then it just drops all the way back down, as we're seeing here, as we have seen in 2021. And 2017, I wasn't really around crypto, but so that is something to be paying attention to. Monthly time frame RSI, if it's overbought, right now we're basically back down into just basically neutral territory, right? And what could be happening here? Let's see. I could probably chart this. This is probably a falling wedge pattern, right? If you guys have charted, if you guys have just looked at charts enough, you guys can just recognize it right off the bat. So this is basically a perfect falling wedge pattern. It is at the top trend line almost, right? Let's get a price target out of this falling wedge pattern here. Just pure technical analysis. Okay, let's say if it breaks out by this week, let's say, okay, for example. Measure move is going to take us back up to about 62 cents. That is just basically the distance between the opening of the pattern, and you put it back on top of a potential breakout point. Of course, if it doesn't break out by this week, then you move the measurement down along the top trend line. and you get a lower price target according to this pattern. Now let's come over here to now we are on top of the weekly 50 SMA, which is very similar to the Bitcoin chart, right? Weekly 21 SMA is going to be about 34 cents, right? It's coming down, right? So that's something to be paying attention to. 34 cents, and that's a downward sloping moving average, so I would expect to be pretty strong resistance. Um, Most likely, okay, not 100%. Now it is at the 3-day 21 SMA, right? As resistance. What I usually do is I kind of assume that it usually takes more than one time for price action to get over a resistance, right? And just with that assumption, you can kind of think about ideas on how to trade, right? But that's just me, not financial advice. That's just my opinion and assumptions, right? Now, 3-day 21, 3-day 50 SMA, that's going to be resistance at about 35 cents, though about 33 to 35 cents, quite a bit of resistance. You got your weekly 21 SMA, your 3-day 50 SMA. Daily time frame, okay? Daily time frame. Just gotten above the daily 50 SMA. I wouldn't really consider that as a solid candle close, so you might get a retest of some sorts. Back down to the next support level, right? That could be either quite a bit of these candles, right, at about 25 cents, or even the daily 21 SMA. That's just my speculation. Daily 200 SMA at about 30 cents. That's going to be resistance, right? So basically, that's what I'm seeing. This could be forming some type of a rounded bottom, potentially back up to a cup and handle, very similar to that Bitcoin chart, right? Now I also want to, so that basically wraps it up for XLM. What I'm seeing here on just the higher time frames. I also want to talk about some key resistance here as well for Bitcoin, because I don't think I addressed it. Weekly 21 SMA is going to be resistance 93,000. 3-day 50 SMA, we're basically there right now, is going to be about 93,000. So we are at some key resistance level right now from 93 to 95,000. And then, of course, after we get over that, it's going to be at 110,000, which is the previous all-time high. Now, this basically wraps up what I need to say about the stock market, the crypto markets, XLM today. If you guys have any comments, likes, subscribe, make sure to leave it in the section below. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a beautiful day.